Man, what an inauspicious start to my fishing trip. The first marina I went to, the parking lot was completely flooded. Couldn't even tell where the dock was, where the back down ramp was. I had to bail. Came to a different area here at Eden Isles on the north shore of Lake Pontchartrain. Water here also sky high. Worse than that, the wind is just screaming. Now I've got to try and go cross Lake Pontchartrain in this horrific wind. This is a trip that may not actually even happen. Just terrible conditions, and aside from that, there's rain on the way, so I got a limited window here. Hopefully I can get on some speckled trout before the rain arrives and before the severe wind gets here, like it's not severe now. All right, let me tell you, that was an absolutely terrible boat ride getting over here. Brutal. Roughest I've ever had this boat in. Definitely not a good decision. However, now I'm toward the south shore of Lake Pontchartrain, just on the edge of the trestles, and I've got some protection here. Wind's still howling. I mean, it's just screaming, but at least I'm on the lee side, and I'm here for one specific purpose. Every year in the month of September, speckled trout get on grass beds in this Lake Pontchartrain region, and they go there to eat the shrimp that are there. Now, of course, we're not in September anymore, but everything was delayed this year due to all the hot weather we had. And so I'm hoping those fish are on grass beds now. And this area that I'm in is typically covered with eelgrass, and I know from past experience that those eelgrass beds hold some speckled trout. We'll see if they're here today. I am seeing some positive signs. There are some slicks that are popping up here and there. Now I've got an assortment of baits lined up to throw to them, but right now I'm starting with a jerkbait made by Matrix Shad. Actually, they're just coming out with it. It's called a rip shad. Oh, look at that, we got some grass. It's not eelgrass, but obviously there's some grass in the area. Now, this jerkbait bite this time of year can be phenomenal here in Lake Pontchartrain, but if they're not on it today, I'm not gonna stick with it long, that's for sure. All right, and here's some eelgrass. I don't know if you can see that on camera. That's definite eelgrass. That's what we want to fish. Man, definitely seeing tons of bait in this area. There's got to be some fish in here. Oh, there's a fish. There's a fish. All right, look at that. I don't think he's a keeper, but it's a little bit of validation. On my jerkbait, he's not a keeper, definitely not. Grunting male, but man, that's a good sign. If he's in here, some of the big girls are in here too, I guarantee it. All right, might be a little too grassy. The grass is really loose right here. Might have to switch to a cork. Look at the mullet. There's a million mullet here, with hopefully a million speckled trout under them. Man, can you see all these mullet? Thousands.
This episode of Marshman Masson brought to you by Puglia Sporting Goods.
There's a trout. There's a trout. Also not a giant. Maybe all they have in here are babies, who knows? That one will not take the boat ride home. Where are your big friends? Where are your big friends? Come on, dude. Another trout, another baby. There's a bunch of fish in there, they're just not big. He might make it, I tell you what. He had a little burst there that felt pretty good. He'll hit the ruler, I'll tell you that. I don't know. I'm thinking 11 and a half, but we will see. Definitely a lot thicker than that other fish. Hooked in the gill. Sorry, Big Daddy, hope you make it. Nope. Sorry. So much bait right there. I knew there had to be some fish. They're just not big. There's a fish. There's a fish. That's a good trout. That's a good trout. That's what we came for. Stay on, big boy. Stay on, big boy. Oh, that's a good trout. Oh, he's only got the back hook. Oh, that's a good trout. Oh. Come on up. All right. All right, look at that. Look at this fish. Most people would never believe you catch trout this size inside this time of year. What a beautiful fish on our rip shad. Big trout, big trout. All right, so I've been fishing the grass beds. Oh. Just catching, oh, what is this? Another trout, look at this. All right, another keeper fish. There we go. Not as big as the last, but still a beautiful fish. All right, as I was saying, I've been focusing on the grass beds, but it seems to be only little fish, so I kind of drifted out of them into the more open water, and that's where I caught these two fish. Let's see if there's any more in the open water. I gotta tell you, I'm a little fearful right now because that wind is building. It was terrible when we came down here, and it's only gotten worse. The boat ride back is gonna be miserable. And I also see a storm. Oh, shoot. I gotta fish more and talk less. I was saying I see a storm building out that way. Oh man, and maybe one coming up from the south too. Might need to check the radar. This trip might be over quickly. There are slicks popping up everywhere. There's a small one right here, there's a big one over there. A couple of big ones out here. They're definitely feeding fish in here. Oh, I felt you, you dog. I tell you, this is just such a fun way to fish. If fish are gonna hit hard plastics, I'm gonna throw hard plastics. I just love it. Now I'm having to use my spinnerbait rod for this because someone who will remain nameless, my son Joel, broke my jerkbait rod. I really like this spinnerbait rod as well, and it's a good substitute, but it's certainly stiffer. It's a medium power rod, so I got to load it with mono. Oh, this wind's getting terrible. All right, I just took a peek at the radar. Unfortunately, it looks terrible. So this trip is gonna end before it ever even really got rolling. Lake Pontchartrain is not a place you want to be when there are thunderstorms around, particularly in my size boat. That would not be pleasant. It's going to be bad enough getting back as it is. There's a fish. There's a fish. Oh, I think it's another guppy. What you doing eating this bait? It's a little large for you. Why can't all of them get it that well? Now there is some scattered grass out here, but it's not nearly as thick as what I fished in the beginning of the trip, but this seems to be where the fish are. These are my favorite kinds of trips. Coming to an area for the first time in a year, not knowing if there's fish there, and having some success, covering a lot of water, just drifting. Man, the shrimp just popped right there. Making a lot of casts, throwing hard plastic baits, which generally are gonna get you the biggest fish out of a school. I know I've caught a couple of small ones on it today. The small ones will hit it, but the big ones are definitely more inclined to hit it than just about anything else. There's a fish, oh, you dog, you dirty dog. I'm gonna blame that one on Joel since he broke my jerkbait rod. That one felt like a decent fish too. He had some guns to pull away from this. And you can see my technique today, it's just kind of a jerk and a pause. Taking the slack and pause. Pause is so important. I'm taking the slack on my pause. Sometimes I do like a triple and let it sit longer, but I tried that today and it hasn't really worked. This seems to be the best cadence today. If you saw my last video with my buddy Justin Bowles, you saw how excited we were to catch a limited speckled trout. Just so nice that it's fall. This long, miserable summer is over. I'll tell you, this day makes me just as excited, being able to do this.
This episode of Marshman Masson brought to you by Matrix Shad, and by Fitzgerald Fishing, and by Cito New Orleans, and by Versamax Quartz, and by Death Grip Jig Heads.
There's a deer crossing the water up here. Look, he got up on the land. Look at that. All right, that's where it's going to check out. Let's take a break from fishing. Let's go check that out. All right, that deer is right next to that roseau. I'm trying to get closer, you can see it. He swam across from over here and got on this island. Look, there it is. There it is. There she goes. That's awesome. That's only the second deer I've seen while fishing in my entire fishing career. The last one was over the winter, and I got about 30 yards from it. It didn't care I was there. I'll link to that video here if you haven't seen it. Back in the thick stuff, where the babies live, I'm gonna throw this cork for this drift. I know you guys from the sticks wonder what the big deal is about seeing a deer. But we just don't see a whole lot of deer down here in South Louisiana. It's definitely a novelty when you do get to see one. That's why I took a break from fishing to go video that one. There's a fish on the cork. Spot lock. Feels like a guppy, feels like a baby. He is a baby. I know they got big ones out there. There's one. There's one. He might make it. He might make it. I don't know. Unlikely. There's a million fish out there, but they're all about this size. Just really, really little. Oh, come on, be big enough. I don't know. I don't know. Think another throwback. Yes, you are. So you wonder if these are fish that came in from outside. I mean, this fish is probably about 10 inches long, grunting male. Did he come in from outside? Or did he just grow up here? I tend to think he probably grew up here in this marsh, and by next spring, he'll be big enough to spawn, especially with all the bait they have around here. Boy, they're just gorging themselves daily, and it's only gonna get worse. As more and more shrimp dump out of the back marshes, these fish are just gonna get to feasting. Oh, there's a trout. There's a trout. Are you gonna be bigger than your brethren? You be out the same mold. You feel like the same mold, you little guppy. Yep. So this is what's called eelgrass. It's a very, very easy grass to fish. Obviously, sometimes you get wrapped in it. But the Pontchartrain Basin is full of it, and it always holds fish this time of year. I mean, if every one of these was a keeper, I would sink the boat. This one feels like he's got a shot. He might be my keeper. Let's see. I don't know. He's shrinking. He is shrinking on the way in. Definitely a keeper. All right. They're growing. Measure him just to be sure. He is a keeper. So obviously I transitioned over to the cork, and it's actually very common for those fish to hit those hard plastic jerk baits first thing in the morning. You got about a 2-hour window. Now I thought it would last a little longer today because of this cloud cover, but they got off the jerk bait for sure. And I stuck with it way too long. There's obviously some fish in here, but they're just not gonna hit that jerk bait at this time of day. Oh, there's a nice fish. That's a good one. Maybe. Maybe not. Come on, dude. Grow on the way in. Grow on the way in. Man, what is wrong with your head? What is wrong with you? Look at this fish. Some type of predator tried to feast on this dude. Look at that. What happened to you, boy? You have beat the odds. Only to end up in my boat. And I think you're 12 inches. We'll see. Now he's short, so we're gonna let him go. Get back to his miserable life. Sorry, guy. All right, are you bigger than the previous ones? I mean, it's just every cast action. Unfortunately, they're just not big. You're the smallest of the day. Why don't you get off? Why don't you do me a favor and get off? Yet another one. Yet another throwback. Man, I tell you what, these fish feel so nice on an initial hook set, but they're generally not. They give up immediately. Oh goodness, just as soon as it hits the water. Now you seem like you might be bigger. Of course, bigger is relative, but you're definitely a keeper. All right, that's definitely a keeper. That's the nicest fish I've caught in this little school. They are devouring this holy jolly under a Versamax. Oh, look at that. Versamax Bolt Pro Series. We got him going now. Now, this one will not make the team. I don't know if he'd make the team if the limit was 10 inches. Yeah, he probably would. But barely. Man, what an absolute blast. So great catching speckled trout so close to home. I'd love to stay out here, continue to fish, but this weather's driving me out of here. It's about to get really, really ugly. This is gonna be the worst boat ride of my life getting back to the dock. But if you see this video, that means I made it. Now the hot baits of the day, really two of them. The Rip Shad Jerkbait by Matrix Shad. It's a new bait. I don't even know if it's technically out yet, but I really like it. I got to fish a prototype a few months ago in Florida and fell in love with the bait then. But also did really well on a Holy Jolly Matrix Shad teamed with a 16th ounce Death Grip jig head. Fished about 3 feet under a Versamax Bolt Pro Series. Great fall combination, particularly when you don't know where fish are and you just got to cover some water. Keep popping that cork and drift along until you run across some fish. After that, you can adjust and dial into something else, but man, that's a great fish finder for me. One thing I do want to mention though, when throwing those jerk baits, you got to do it in clean water. The water I'm fishing today is beautiful, probably about 2.5 feet of visibility. It's perfect for it, nice and green. You come to an area and the water's off, forget the jerk baits. Use something else. Use that cork rig, or even a tight line, but don't do the jerk baits. Man, this wind's really picking up. I gotta go. All right, hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, please give it a thumbs up. Also subscribe to the Marshman Masson channel on YouTube. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you be notified whenever we post a new video. And until next time, if we don't see you in the marsh, we'll see you right here on Marshman Masson.